A bill requiring children to get permission from their parents before signing up for social media profiles has passed the state house with an overwhelming majority. Here to share more on what this means and how it works is Representative Travis Moore, representing District 33, which covers Spartanburg County. And we're glad that you could join us. The bill passed 90-17. When does it go into effect and how exactly does it work?
So the bill would go into effect next year, March of 2026, if signed by the governor. But how it works is basically two main parts to it. First of all, social media platforms would have to seek parental consent to create accounts for minors. And the second part of the bill is saying that online service providers would have to use age-appropriate design code, which means they would have to design their platforms with a duty of care towards our children. Much like we have minimum standards with cribs and child seats and playground equipment, this would put a duty of minimum standards of safety on online service providers and the services they provide to our children directly.
Of the 17 who dissented, one of which is Representative Todd Rutherford, we did reach out to him. We have yet to schedule an interview with him. We hope that he'll make the time to join us. But what do the opponents to this bill have to say? Why did they not agree with the language that was in the bill, even though it did pass? But what was their dissent?
Yeah, I think some of them, particularly Representative Rutherford, were concerned about privacy concerns and data information that's required to verify age and for parents to be able to verify their minor children's accounts. I was a little bit confused, though, at the opposition because he did vote for this bill last session, but not this session. But it was specifically addressed in the bill that once the age is verified and the parent is consented to creating an account for their child, any data that was used to create that account can no longer be held on to. It must be destroyed.
In fact, I think it was just one dissent in last year's bill.
That's correct. There was just one person last year who voted against it and picked up a few more opposition this year. But we see this as something South Carolina needs. I mean, we have no legal framework to protect our children on these social media platforms or these online service providers. And this would subject them to the South Carolina Unfair Trade Practices Act, and they would have to design their products with the safety of our children in mind.
And I want to bring up Representative Brandon Guffey in just a moment here, but I am curious. So there are going to be some guardrails in place in order to enforce this law. However, are there ways of getting around it that parents should be aware of just to ensure that their children are still being protected and that everyone is following the law?
Right. Well, this came up in the debate, and you're right. This is a parent's responsibility, and we acknowledge that. Parents have the duty and the rights to parent their children. What this bill does is it makes online service providers and social media platforms provide tools to parents. It empowers parents to take a more active role in monitoring and protecting their children with online access. And there are both civil penalties and the Attorney General is authorized under this law to enforce it against social media platforms and online service providers.
And again, this is a bill that will allow parents to give their consent, but without the consent. Now, with the penalties you had mentioned, what kind of penalties are we talking about?
Well, first of all, the Attorney General will be required to provide a report on companies who are not complying with the law, and he can take action against them. But civilly, a parent could take civil action against these companies in circuit court at $2,500 per incident, and actual damages if they can prove that by not complying with the law, it created some type of damage to their children.
I see. Okay, we have just about a minute left here, but I just wanted to bring up Representative Brandon Guffey of Rock Hill. He testified in front of the U.S. Senate committee. This is following a sextortion scam that led to his son committing suicide. And so this bill kind of extends into that area to protect children from being attacked online from known and unknown sources.
That's exactly right. So last session we did pass Gavin's law, which was for Brandon's son, which specifically was targeted at sextortion. But this law expands on that with additional tools for parents to use to safeguard their children. And part of this law would keep your children from being able to share their actual location with strangers, connecting with strangers that are not already connected with on these platforms. It would prevent them from being able to share personal information that otherwise, parents would not share. So it puts a lot of requirements on these companies to act with a duty of care, like we already require many other companies who provide products to children.
And we have just about 20 seconds left. Can you just talk about the other bill that you're currently working on to help protect children from child pornography, creators who are using AI to create this stuff?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. The House Judiciary Committee just passed that bill out this Tuesday. But basically, what it does is it allows prosecutors in our state, it gives them another tool for prosecuting child exploitation. Right now, we have people who are able to capture the likenesses of children from the internet or social media and use AI technology to actually create sexually explicit content with that child's face on it. And this has been a gap in our law, and this bill will give prosecutors the tool they need to be able to prosecute those people under our child exploitation laws and statutes.
Wonderful. Representative, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for having me.
We're back in 2 minutes.